That's kind of what led into the Amazon, finally applying to Amazon as a front-end engineer versus a software engineer, which two totally different interview processes there. I remember being like just terrified, like starting there, just like the imposter syndrome like really kicked in. I would say being a parent probably was another like big impact on my career, just growing in certain areas that I was not able to grow at otherwise. That's when I started really like diving into journaling and writing. That's probably been the number one habit that I've added to my daily routine that like has just had a powerful impact on my life. You need a project that's your idea, something that you're interested in and something that you're passionate about. I really love working with career changers. That's my favorite kind of person to work with. Being able to share your link to one of your friends or your mom or dad or something in a text and be like, hey, I did this. Like, it's very powerful, very rewarding.
Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Top Mentor Podcast, and today we have Joey Pedici, who is a CTO, an ex-Amazon worker, and a front-end engineer. Hi, Joey.
Hey, Victor. Nice to have me on here.
Thanks for coming by. So, Joey has been working in a lot of places, from starting as a Angular developer towards then moving to a QA role and then going back to front-end engineer, and then he started developing in a lot of places, and he also landed in a big kind of company. We will talk about more on it later on. So, Joey, tell us a bit about what's your story and how have you been working in all those different places that we talked about before, and also how you get into your current role.
It goes back to going to college. I went to the Ohio State University, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do other than knowing I liked being on the computer all the time. So I went into computer science, and I was very close to dropping out or like changing majors just because it just was not clicking for like the first 2 years. And I think this is an important part of like my journey. I bring it up especially because with a lot of people like learning nowadays, going to boot camps and like trying to get into the industry with less than even a year really of education, it takes a long time to really like feel comfortable in like the tech industry, kind of doing what you're doing. So yeah, like learning recursion was like the hardest roadblock for me back then.
That's a roadblocker for a lot of people. Iteration and recursion.
I just remember, struggling with that a lot, and then made it through the first 2 years, and that's when I got into more like learning web development and kind of real like project building and actually seeing, okay, I can write functions in code, but how does that turn into an actual like application or like something useful, right? So that's when, once I started to like build things and projects, it all started to click. And that kind of led into an internship at JP Chase, and spent an additional 4 years there after graduating. And I learned a ton there. Like first job, you're gonna learn so many new things, but then you reach a point where you're not growing anymore, you're not like learning as much, and you're kind of doing a lot more like maintenance type work. I kind of reached that point and decided I wanted to change things up, just try something new. I think I was just like addicted to like learning things and growing. So that's kind of what I was like, I just want to get into a totally new industry, a totally new type of company. So then I got a few offers and ended up going with the one that I felt like most comfortable with. The people I was interviewing with seemed like a good environment, very supportive. And so that was the Dakota healthcare job, and doing QA automation engineering, which I dabbled in a little bit of that at JP Morgan, doing like UI automation with Selenium. Selenium. So starting with that role, I was just like, it's kind of really open-ended role. Is just like, you're here to improve the quality and make sure we're not deploying bad things to production. And it was kind of just whatever you need to do to make that happen, do it. So I had a lot of autonomy and room to like explore different things and come up with my own solutions. And just over the course of my time there, I got closer to the code, especially on the front end. Started working on the Ember app. Then we moved on to Angular. Plenty of stuff that I did there. It was all over the place. It was like trying to get involved in the API side, learning Scala, learned a bit of Elixir, I was just like trying to do as many different things as I could. Like I still never really knew where my niche was at that point. Like I felt more comfortable on the front end, but I wasn't totally sure. It didn't feel like when I was working there and like back then, it felt like front end was less like pristine.
You weren't doing like the real thing. It was like more of the you are getting things beautiful, but the real work is on the back end, which is some thought that I don't like. That there are people that you shouldn't value or misvalue what the front end does, because after all, it's what the users see, right?
Yeah. So exactly, like it's really important because that's really like being able to interact with technology. You can have like an amazing application that does really cool things, but if it's not it's just harder to kind of quantify that type of impact, I guess. And I think that's what I was struggling with, was like I'm making things look nice or like making them interactive or whatever, but it doesn't feel like as impactful. But I kind of got more and more comfortable with that and just really like dove in because I wasn't really picking up the Scala and Elixir.
I don't think it comes natural to anybody.
Yeah.
I tried that once with some Coursera courses from the people that even developed that language, and for me it was like, okay, I'm not going to do this. I knew it from when I saw and I still see people developing in Scala. I say, you guys are good. Like that wouldn't fit my time now. Even though I've been doing Java for some time, it's still too much for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the guys there that worked on the Scala code base, like they just felt like gods to me. I'm like, I don't know how you like wrangle this stuff. And like I bought the functional programming in Scala book and was like reading it. I remember like I was reading it on an airplane trip for a few hours. Yeah, it was really interesting. But I think it did have a big impact on the way I write like front end code now. So I'm glad I tried to learn it. But yeah, after kind of accepting that wasn't for me and just diving into the front end, we rewrote the Ember app in Angular, and then getting the Angular experience, I think, was a big bump for my career. So again, I kind of reached a point where I wasn't learning as much and wanted to try something new. So then I started looking for jobs again after about 5 years at Coda, and that's when I got a front end architect type role, just kind of like leading Angular development at Battleface. And that was like the kind of pivotal moment in my career, I think. At that point, I had like applied to and interviewed to like Google and Amazon and some of these bigger companies multiple times and like failed those interviews. But like you go through it and you're like, okay, I know what I need to do better at for next time. I know where I need to focus. And so like I had taken all that stuff. I'm like, okay, this next job, I'm just going to like really try to make the most of my time there to get up to that next level. And that was also when like COVID was going on, and it was a pretty like rough time like on the personal side of things. And so I was like really financially motivated, so that my wife could stay home and kind of work on just being a mother. Like,
and also because I believe that parenthood is changes everything, right? But also provides changes in the way that you approach work. Either you do some stuff. The guy we talked about in the first episode started writing, and now he's very passionate about writing. And in your case, it's like, okay, move to more advanced positions. You are more motivated financially, of course, but also you want to advance in your career because you want to provide for your child. So that's, and of course, for your wife. So that's a very interesting, like how, apart from the responsibility and the impact in life that a child has, is how it affects other areas that are not directly influenced, like your work or your hobbies as well.
Oh yeah, had a huge impact on everything. And just the type of skills you learn as a parent too, like setting boundaries, right? Like work-life balance became a much stronger area of my like skill set, and then like time management as well. So yeah, like I would say being a parent probably was another like big impact on my career, just growing in certain areas that I was not able to grow at otherwise. Totally. Yeah, so that's kind of what led into the Amazon, finally applying to Amazon as a front-end engineer versus a software engineer, which two totally different interview processes there. Oh, good.
No, I'm curious about what you said about the different process. So this is kind of a funny question that came to my mind. It's like, did you do lead code problems for the front end? I mean, if you can say something that you can say yes, no, because I assume that's a disclosure kind of thing. But I'm curious about that.
Yeah, there was one leak code question, I think, during the whole interview. So like the Amazon one, there's like 5 1 hour long interviews all like in a row. But I remember for the software development one, there were probably like 3, 4 maybe leak code questions. But yeah, for the front end, it was one leak code type question.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was curious about if that happens or not. So yeah, go ahead and continue with the Amazon experience.
Yeah, so I remember being like just terrified, like starting there, just like the imposter syndrome like really kicked in, and just a very different like onboarding experience than what I had previously been used to. You kind of join them and they give you just like an onboarding task list, and there was like 70 things in it, and I already was like giving a task to work on like within my first week there. And working at a company like with that scale and like the kind of like, I think it was just like really affecting me a lot. And I think the stress of that, and it just like weighed heavily on me. So my first role there lasted only 2 months. It just, with all the changes and with the type of work I was doing on the team, it just was not a good fit for me. And so found like a Slack channel called Front-End Poaching, where just different teams can meet front-end engineers for like different needs. So I found Amazon Care was hiring for a front-end role and kind of got into there. And then things started to get a little bit better. Felt a little more comfortable in that role. And then was in that role for about 2 months. Didn't quite get to do anything yet. And then they shut down Amazon Care. And then for about a month or so, I was kind of in limbo. Didn't really have a team. Didn't know what was going on. And so, yeah, like during this whole time, right, like I'm dealing with all these like emotions, like imposter syndrome and like all this stress and feeling overwhelmed. And that's when I started really like diving into journaling and writing. So like you mentioned, another like someone you interviewed had the same kind of thing with writing being a big impact, and I would very much say the same. Like that's probably been the number one habit that I've added to my daily routine that like has just had a powerful impact on my life. And so when I had like no team, I was in limbo. I just wanted to keep my skills up, and I knew eventually I would be on a team and have to develop something. So I wanted to like build an app from scratch. So I built my own journaling app, and yeah, learned a lot doing that. I never actually built an app that I used before. Like you build side projects and no one uses them, or you throw it out or just put it up on your GitHub. You're like, here it is. But like, yeah, I actually was using it daily and growing it based on feedback I was giving myself. And I like really like...
Yeah, really involved into the project.
Yeah, I got really involved in it. I learned a lot of like project management skills. And then I would say that's where I like started to get the idea of like I could help people kind of build side projects, whether for like interview prep or like changing careers or applying to jobs, personal portfolio. So that's like what got me into mentorship. But going back to like my time at Amazon, I eventually got put on like the Amazon health team, finally got a project. It was the Amazon kind of One Medical like landing page. So that was my first real project at Amazon. And that was about 9 months into Amazon by the time I started working on that. Simple landing page, but the like complexity at Amazon is all around just, it's a huge company. Every team kind of like chooses their own tech. So there's lots of different paths you can take. And a lot of internal tools and libraries, and everything is like an internal, like proprietary product. So learning all that, and then all the documentation is also internal. It's not like you can go on Stack Overflow, or so they have their own like Stack Overflow. They have their own source code.
The environment is very close. So like I assume that all there is a lot of effort in these big companies. They develop a lot of things. When I read engineering blogs from Facebook or Google or Amazon, it's like they have when they say they open source whatever, and I say how they can open source, and it's a tool that almost does a lot of things, and it's it tends to be very complex.
Mm.
And I say, and they open source it. So if I imagine what they have open source, what's closed source or like proprietary for them, the complexity of that could be crazy.
Oh yeah, learning all the tools and frameworks and everything to do that was very challenging and at times overwhelming. But we got through it, and then the project after that was the actual One Medical purchase One Medical membership via Amazon Prime. And that's where I finally got to do some front end architect type work, deciding on how we're gonna build it, what tools. Got to do some actual design work for that, and that was a lot of fun. A lot of pressure, again, but a lot of just doubting myself on certain decisions and things. You're put in this position, but it was still to that point I hadn't really designed or architected a real complex system. The last time I had done it was working at a smaller company where you kind of just free to kind of test things and do things. Here I had to really write all these documents and get it approved by the team, and going through that was challenging. I remember writing one time a document and being just terrified to present it to the team, and just wanting to delay it and delay it and delay it. I was just terrified of the feedback, but then I went through it and got good feedback, a lot of constructive feedback, things that changed. But I'm why was I no one's mean or anything. People, everyone at the end of the day, we're all on the same team. Everyone's trying to get this thing done. They're just trying to help me. But I think it's a common thing that a lot of people at some of these bigger companies, at least when they're early on, deal with. And that also ties back into the mentorship, kind of going through that and feeling all the feeling of self-doubt and everything, that being able to talk to someone more junior and kind of who's going through the similar stuff, maybe with something smaller, trying to design a feature or trying to code a feature, feeling that self-doubt, being able to talk to them and work through it. I focus a lot on that in my mentorship. I kind of it's almost kind of like a code therapy type of thing. So I really kind of getting into that kind of stuff with my mentorship, just because I think everyone deals with it.
Yeah, and also because these projects can get messy, and if you don't have guidance, it's easy to get lost. And yeah, I also believe that could be helpful to have someone that is helping you, and also when you're building something, you get maybe lost in the amount of things that you want to do. And if someone is telling you, build this, making the priorities for you, you will be able to learn later on, because the first time it's always difficult to build something right away. It's almost impossible, I would say.
Yeah, going along with it, we designed everything up front, and then you start building it and you come across these roadblocks, and we had to change so many things from the initial design of that project to what actually got released. And yeah, it's just going back to the internal tools, you can't fully know how they work just by the documentation. You start using it and you realize something changed that wasn't documented, and then you totally got to rethink your design on things. So yeah, that's all part of just software development. That's the job. So yeah, that's kind of my role at Amazon. And then return to office hit, and that's ultimately what sent me into this new role where I'm at CTO at a really small startup. But yeah, again, diving into learning new things. So
no, yeah, I believe that there could be the two ways of doing it. First starting your own thing and then moving towards corporate kind of bigs, or the other way around, you get bored or you get stressed out of a corporate and then you start your own thing, but you collaborate with a smaller startup as guidance. So that's the two ways. So I wanted to ask about this transition that you experimented to learn towards mentorship. So at which moment in your career did you start mentoring, and also how have you been handling from the beginning towards you at this very day?
I would say I started mentoring 5 or so years into my career at Coda. I had a good friend that worked there who kind of came from the data entry side of the company, wanted to get into engineering. And so I helped him work on some small node services, taught unit testing, and just like writing JavaScript. And yeah, it was really fun working together with him on things and teaching him what I knew. It was the first time I was really like teaching a peer something versus like everything up to that point. Like I had a lot of mentors at JP Morgan and at Coda as well, but it was my first time like being on that side of it and really loved it. And I have always had like a passion for teaching. I actually applied for Teach for America while I was still in college when I didn't know if tech was even right for me. Kind of went down a few different paths before going on the path. And I've also volunteered different places. There's the Microsoft Teals program, which is a computer science education program. So I got to teach a class, a high school class in computer science. And then I've volunteered at different after-school software development clubs. So I've always had the passion for education, but then doing real mentorship through career, kind of different, but got to do more of it again at Battleface. It's a lot like share things. So I shared a lot of my IDE setup and some plugins I use. It kind of started with that, but then it got into, I just set up a lot of pair programming calls there. And what really worked a lot there was taking turns when working on features, pairing with some of the more junior engineers, where like I would one session and they would just watch. And so they can kind of pick up on my coding process. And then on the flip side, they would lead and I could pick up on, okay, here's maybe a different way you could do this, kind of speed up your process, or yeah, just kind of go back and forth. And like I would learn things that they would be doing. I'm like, oh, that's really cool plugin you've got. That looks nice. Or just, yeah, knowledge sharing via pair programming. So we did a lot of that at Battleface, and I kind of took that into Amazon as well. Set up like a weekly pair programming call with the junior engineers that were working on that one medical project. And it was just very beneficial and very just rewarding. I think I was dealing with a lot of also like the corporate environment for me is not where I thrive the most. I do like the freedom that like a smaller company provides. So to kind of manage that like feeling of, I don't know if this is like right for me, kind of those kind of feelings, finding ways to do more mentorship and the things that I love to do within that job really like brought back my passion and brought back my energy. And so forget the initial question, but I think
that's all right. No, it was... So my question, apart from the initial idea that you talked about, is from up until now, so how your mentoring has evolved in terms of the, because I assume, especially with when they are paid mentorships, you struggle a bit with what you mentioned about same as Amazon, like imposter syndrome and all of this, and now you feel more comfortable, you have your methods in place. So how do you think the evolution has been there in terms of the more professional part?
Okay. Yeah, when I first started with Mentor Cruise, I had 2 mentees that signed up, and yeah, again, the imposter syndrome. I was like, someone's paying me to help them right now, and that like freaked me out for some reason. And so I like went kind of overboard with like trying to help them with things and with the job search and interview prep. And so I learned a lot after going through it the first 2 times. And then had a few more people sign up after that, got a little bit more comfortable kind of developing a system. So starting with an introduction of, so first about the mentee, really, my client, getting to know them. I think that's the most important step that I kind of skipped with the first time around. So I have a little questionnaire I ask whenever starting a new mentorship now, and just asking about their goals, asking who they are. Like I ask, what are your hobbies? What are your interests? Like just trying to really like put myself in their shoes and understand where they're at and where they want to be, and like making that very clear up front. And so we kind of like write down where they are and where they want to be, and kind of publish that in a little like Notion dashboard, so that we kind of are always tying everything we do back to that. And at that point, it's kind of based on what works best. Everyone kind of works differently. So some people like having like weekly recurring meetings. Some people like just doing ad hoc. Some people need kind of that like accountability of checking in on them more often. And so I kind of learned, okay, like people have different ways of doing things. I kind of have to like generalize my like process so that it can work for different types of people. So that like second batch was kind of learning that. And then I kind of took a break to focus on my work at Amazon because it got kind of crazy there for a few months. And then really dove back into it this past December and picked up like a new round of mentees. And this time around, I really dove into like using Notion to keep track of everything. So like I share a Notion dashboard with my mentees now with like all of our meeting notes. I ask them to give me a few jobs they want that they would be interested in or like think would be a good fit for them. And we kind of like go through the jobs now and figure out, okay, what are some things they're looking for that we're going to focus on. And so we create like a roadmap and then we just start going through that roadmap. But it's all based around project development now. So that's like where I realized my methodology is, I guess, like centering everything around like a project and developing that project. And so it kind of evolved to me starting with just doing everything and things I'm not even that good at to now, okay, I'm going to take their goals and center it around a project development through the whole project development lifecycle together.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because this is something that I've been dealing with as well. So the idea that at the beginning you get a lot of requests and you're trying to figure it out and you're building such a lot of things, and then up until like several mentees you just think, okay, I think I should focus on having a general procedure. Not that it's not flexible, but you can apply to almost everyone that is probably reaching out to you. And then what you mentioned about also the Notion part was great. And then being able to create a system kind of so that it's easier for you, probably better for your mentees because you are going to upgrade your system and then this is going to be better and it's going to be more helpful for so regarding that project kind of learning, do you think that that focus is better for actually learning in tech? And also, how do you tend to plan it? Like, do you adapt to the ideas that the mentee has in terms of what they want to build, or do you have kind of backup projects so that they can build? Because I assume some people are maybe don't care about what they are going to build, something that is helpful for them.
Yeah, so my requirement really to start is that the mentee has a project that they want to build.
Okay.
So not really a requirement. Like I do work with some people who don't want the project development. They have their own thing they're working on, or like they just want some general interview guidance. But generally 90% of the time I say you need a project that's your idea, something that you're interested in and something that you're passionate about. The reason for that, and the reason I find that is way more valuable than building a project idea from some of these like curators who have a bunch of project ideas or like a tutorial project. It's the passion, it's the motivation. If there's a reason you're trying to build something, you're going to get there. I have this like analogy, and there's this part of it. The whole first section of it is how to come up with a project idea and why to do it. So the analogy of like you're driving across the country and your car breaks down or something. Why are you driving across the country? Is it to visit a loved one who is sick and you may not see them again? Or is it to go to an event that you don't really care about? Because that's going to determine if you repair your car and keep going or if you just turn back and go home. And so same thing with developing a project. You're eventually going to hit roadblocks. You're going to reach a point in the project where things get hard. You're going to consider quitting, or maybe that it's not worth it. And if it's a project that you truly care about and you want to see built and you want to use, or you want to provide it to someone else, maybe it's a friend you're building it for, or like a local business or something, if the motivation's there, you're going to get through it. So that's why I stress that very highly in the beginning, is like find something that you really are passionate about, and we'll start there and build that.
Yeah. And recently I've seen that you can also think if you don't have to have this great idea that it's going to be a startup or whatever. You just can find something that you don't and you think it needs a fix and you just do the fix. Like if you want to schedule your tweets or your LinkedIn posts, try to do some automation for doing that. Or if something doesn't work or you see that something you need to pay for that you want to create a tool for because you think it's not worth it, you can build a tool and maybe you can sell it later. Something like that. It doesn't need to be this great idea that's going to make you a millionaire. It's just some dummy stuff, but it makes you, it's actually fun, something related to your hobbies, whatever that you are passionate about and you want to work, if not every week.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with that theory.
Yeah, those are the projects that succeed, right? It's the small ones, the ones that are achievable, and like it's the great ideas that I try to stray people away from. It's like solve one problem for one person and then build on that. So a lot of people do try to come with ideas of like something solving a problem for a huge cohort of people. I'm like, find one person who has one problem and solve that.
And then probably that one person is going to be you. Like 90% of the time it's you or someone that you can think of. So, and I also wanted to ask you about, because you told me that some people in your mentorship came from very different backgrounds and trying to make some transitions, and you have some stories there. So can you tell me, like, how have you been able to help them, and any tips that you can say on that kind of people to encourage them to make the transition if they want to?
Yeah, I really love working with career changers. That's my favorite kind of person to work with because they're already working, they have experience in something else, and then so it's how do you take that experience and figure out the parts of it that apply to, typically it's a web development job, but any kind of software or like tech related job. And so it's a lot of like repackaging past experience in like new ways. And so a lot of the skills that companies are looking for are, can you solve a problem and can you communicate? It kind of boils down to that. If you can do those two things, you can succeed in most jobs. Problem solving is like learning what you need to learn to get past the next hurdle, and then you just keep learning and building, solving problems. And then the communication aspect is so that you're solving the right problems for the right people. And I think any experience at any job, you can pick out those two pieces and put that into your resume and put it into the way you speak about yourself in an interview. So then in lieu of like a formal education, a boot camp, or real development experience, that's where the personal project comes into play. And which is why I think building your own project for yourself, creating the requirements from scratch, doing the whole software development lifecycle and learning what goes into building a project, a product. They learn not only skills needed to be the software developer, but also what does a project manager do? What does a product manager do? What does a QA tester do? What does someone in DevOps do? You're learning everything. And so a lot of people, someone I work with might love the UX side of things, and they actually might end up going and getting a design role. Someone else building the project, they love the project management side of it, and they go get a PM role. And so a lot of people switching into tech don't know that these different roles might exist. And so by building the project, they can kind of really find what their niche is, what they love doing, and really dive into that. And that kind of fast tracks you to start applying for those kind of roles.
Yeah, totally. I believe that and also for like any other that you mentioned, especially happens to people that are actually from software engineering or a technical background, that they tend to focus on their area. They don't touch like other areas, front end. If you're back end, you don't touch front end. If you are front end, you don't touch DevOps. And I really believe that the product is the whole thing, and you need to at least have some knowledge on how things work, even though you weren't capable of doing it, because this way you can figure out how things work. And if you have to at some point, especially in leadership, if you have to manage a product, you should know every other part, more or less, with some more advanced knowledge or some less advanced knowledge. You should be able to do stuff and be able to know what the people are saying, because you can also have some technical person that tells you something that you may not understand, but you should be able to get to it. And as you mentioned, people that come from a very non-technical background, they say this amount of roles, you don't know half of it. Even we as engineers, we don't know this, and there are roles popping up every other year because of the necessity and the industry. So that's a very interesting topic. And the project side is where you build experience actually. So when you build actually the thing and you have a domain and you go to that domain and that domain shows something that you build, is a very rewarding thing. And I believe that coming from uni, where you do these kind of tasks, where you, after all, you don't see it, or you see it in your local, it's not the same feeling seeing it in your local host or whatsoever than hitting a domain that you bought or someone lent you, and you put in a public IP and it's working. That's a very rewarding feeling.
Absolutely. Being able to share your link to one of your friends or your mom or dad or something in a text and be like, hey, I did this. Like, it's very powerful, very rewarding. It's a huge part of like the motivation side of learning it. So
totally. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about, now that you've been doing the mentorships on your current role, like what are your plans in the following year or 2 years? What your focus now? Since you mentioned that you get tired of the interactions, and I assume you had a very exhausting experience when you worked back at Amazon, what are you planning to do in the next year, next few years?
Yeah, my current focus, which will last a long time, I think, is this tech CTO role, because I'm just learning at a ridiculous pace, very, very different skills than what I've ever been exposed to in past roles. And we're using technology like no code type platforms that I've never worked with before. Just everything that comes with that, and like growing a company from like a very early stage. There's just so much to learn and do there. So that's my focus for the next couple years, or foreseeable future really. And then just keep doing like the mentorship on the side and kind of growing that. And like the CEO I'm working with, like he's very understanding, like he knows about my mentorship. So like I'll be taking calls throughout the day on certain days for mentorship. But it all ties back together. Like the things I learned through mentoring, I learn just as much from my mentees as they learn from me. So being able to put that back into this company, it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship of just like learning and sharing knowledge and just growing things. And so, yeah, it's just growing the mentorship and growing this company we're building.
Yeah, no, I believe you have a very good goal with growing the company. I assume it's a very challenging task. And also you maybe even be able to hire some of your mentees into your startup. I hope you do.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to do that. There's some people, I've worked with a few people that were having trouble finding jobs. I'm like, I'm letting right now, if I were hiring, I would absolutely hire you on the spot. Like you individual are extremely smart and a quick learner. When you mentor someone, you really get to see that side of them, that someone who's interviewing someone and they only get 30 minutes with this person, they don't get the full, they don't see the dynamic abilities of these people. And so yeah, when I see that, I'm like, I wish so bad I could hire you, but like we don't have the budget, or there's one reason or another to not be able to.
Yeah, that's totally. And I want just to end up, as you became this CTO startup, what are the skills that you think you learned and that you mentioned that you think that only you will learn in that kind of role?
So making like strategic technical decisions that impact the whole company. You work at a company, maybe you're like software architect for like a bigger company, you own a product, but like owning the entire like platform of the company, or like making decisions like that, that's like the biggest thing I would say that I'm learning. So when to prioritize certain things, scale, like should you focus on scaling, when do you focus on it, technical scaling versus like kind of adding features and building features, trying to grow the customer base, which are related but different thing. You're focusing on two different things. You're just like incurring more tech debt trying to grow the business, and then the other side is trying to like manage that and be able to grow the business more easily by like redoing things to scale it better. Just so many like decisions that you have to make in that type of role, which I have a lot of like respect for like engineering leaders now that I've had in the past, where maybe as like a younger developer and didn't like appreciate some of the decisions that need to be made, or you don't understand it. You're like, we have so much tech debt, we need to like fix this, but like you get up to this higher perspective and you're like, yeah, it really doesn't matter. Like
Yeah,
it's about growing the company ultimately. So yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I totally agree that those skills you will only apply them and learn them when you are in a management kind of a leadership position. So just to wrap up, let the audience know where they can find you and where you can post your stuff. And yeah, floor is yours.
I mean, yeah, easiest place to start, I guess, is just LinkedIn. Joseph Pedicini. Yeah, I might be Joey Pedici. Like I said, I hope
You are Joey.
Yeah. Depending on who I'm talking to, I'll change it. Yeah, I post on LinkedIn every now and then whenever I feel like it. I very much don't want to be like an influencer type of person, but I'll share my thoughts every now and then on LinkedIn, and I have links to my personal site, my blog. I made an album over the past 6 months, and it's planned to go live on Spotify tomorrow. So some music that I've made.
Yeah, I will put it on the link because probably when this will be released, the album will be out. So
Yeah. So just different emotional things I've dealt with through work, through life. Music's my way of kind of processing it. So so that's where you can find me.
awesome. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, well, probably people can find your album next to the podcast, and then they can have a very good background music to listen to this.
It's probably not the best background music, but
So yeah, Joe, thanks a lot for coming by, and thanks a lot for sharing your experiences. I think you provided a lot of value and a lot of good insights to people, especially starting in tech and figuring out their way through it, that they need to be thoughtful and also very hands-on if you want to succeed. It's really so. Yeah, thanks a lot.
yeah, thanks so much for inviting me. It was really fun. So glad to be here.